So we're going to start off, guys, with our lower body daily cars routine. So if you guys all stand up. Cool. And we're going to start off with the ankles. So I want you to just stand on one leg. Then your other leg, just engage your quad so that your leg is straight. And from here, we're going to do our controlled articular rotations for the ankles. So I want you to point your foot to start. Then you're going to sweep your foot to the inside towards your body. Once you can't get any more movement in that direction, start to flex and pull your foot towards your shin as much as possible. And then we're going to reach the foot to the outside. Then we're going to go back to pointing our foot. So that's one rotation. Let's go for two more that direction. Try to make these circles as smooth as you can. So try not to make them jerky. I know it's difficult, but yeah, just try and control it so it's a nice smooth circle. One more this direction, and then we'll go the other direction. Also, guys, try to only move the ankle. So try not to rotate your hip back and forth or bend your knee. Okay, back the other way. So sweep the foot to the outside, then flex your foot towards your shin, bring it across to the inside, and then point. Back through the middle, two more this way. And last rep, nice and slow. When we're doing our cars, guys, you can imagine that the air is really thick, so it's actually hard to move through the air. If you imagine that, you're going to make a nice controlled circle. Okay, guys, let's just switch to our other leg. Once again, point the foot, sweep to the inside, flex, and to the outside. Two more reps. Moving our ankle through as big an active range of motion as we can. And guys, always on cars, we're avoiding pain. So any parts of the circle, if they're painful, we're going to avoid that part and make the rotation smaller so that we don't feel that pain. And guys, switch directions for 3 reps. And last rep. Okay, guys, we're going to move our way up to our knees. So we've got 2 things that we need to do with our knees. One of them is the patella cars, so your kneecap. So I just want you to sit down, straighten your leg out. It's important that your leg is straight. And then it's also important that you relax your quad. So don't engage your quad now. And I just want you to take your thumbs and just gently move your kneecap side to side. So if you engage your quad, then you notice the kneecap won't be able to move. So yeah, it's important to keep that leg relaxed. All right, guys, now I want you to move it up and down. So yeah, put one thumb below and one thumb above and gently move it. And now, guys, we're going to make a circle with the kneecap. So whatever works best for you with your thumb positioning, just try to move that kneecap in a circular motion. So guys, if you feel any areas of this circle where the kneecap's not moving through very easily, then you should spend more time in that area. And let's just go the other direction. Your kneecap needs to be able to move freely for our knees to function properly. Okay guys, and let's switch sides. So yeah, make sure that leg's relaxed. And let's just go a couple reps side to side. This is the only controlled articular rotation that is passive, because you can't move your kneecap like this on its own. Then a couple reps up and down. And then a few rotations. And change direction. All right guys, now we're going to move on to the knee joint itself, not just the kneecap. So this is definitely tricky. So we're just going to start with learning how to rotate our knee, or at least trying to. So I want you to let's take our left leg first. Take your left hand, and I want you to grab the outer hamstring. So you should feel a tendon going on the outside of the leg to behind the knee. Put your fingers from your left hand there. Then I want you to take your right hand and touch your shin bone right at the top. Now, if you engage that muscle, that outer hamstring muscle, then you're going to notice that your knee externally rotates outwards. And so I just want you to practice turning your knee in and then turning your knee out, just in this one position. It's definitely tricky, especially if you've never done it before. All right guys, next what we're gonna do, I want you to just lift that heel off the ground. Then I want you to externally rotate the knee, so squeeze that outer hamstring, and then we're just gonna hinge back and forth a couple times. So don't straighten your knee all the way, just go to about 75% straight and hinge back and forth. All right, now I want you guys to internally rotate the knee. So turn in that way, and then again, just do a few hinges. All right. Just turn this down a little. Now guys, we're going to try a rotation. So it's kind of similar to the elbow. So I want you to externally rotate, then extend, and then internally rotate, and then flex. Let's go for 2 more that direction. Just do your best guys, this is definitely tricky. All right, and let's go for the other direction. So extend an internal rotation about 2/3, 75%, sorry, and then externally rotate and flex. Internally rotate, extend 3/4, externally rotate, and flex. Last rep. Nice. All right, guys, let's switch to the other side. So once again, take your right hand to that outer hamstring muscle. Take your left hand to the top of your shin, and let's just practice those rotations with the knee fixed in one position. Good work, guys. Okay, lift the heel up, externally rotate, do a couple of hinges. And then internally rotate, do a few hinges. Again, just 75% of the way. And let's do the full rotation. So externally rotate, extend 3/4, internally rotate, and flex. And 2 more this way. So another thing, guys, for this one, try to relax the foot and the ankle. So your ankle's going to want to compensate. If your knee can't rotate, then you're going to want to just move your ankle instead. But try your best to keep that ankle relaxed. So we're focusing on the knee. And back the other way, so internally rotate, extend, externally rotate, flex, in, extend, out, and flex. Okay guys, so that would be our knee cars in a seated position. It's a little bit easier when you're sitting down because your hips are kind of not able to move as easily. Okay, now moving on to our hip joint, which is going to be our main focus for today. So stand up. We're going to perform our hip cars from a standing position. These definitely take the most effort out of the lower body, similar to how the shoulder takes the most effort in the upper body. So just hold on to something for balance. It can be a wall, or it could be even if you have a stick to hold on to. All right, now take your outer leg. Now I want you to sweep the foot across your body, then externally rotate. So reach your ankle up as high as possible. When you can't get any higher with the ankle, then relax the external rotation, keep the knee high. Now we're going to go out to the side as far as we can. Once you can't get any further out to the side, we're going to then internally rotate, reach our ankle up, and then extend, kick back, and then finish with our knees together. Now back the other way, so you're going to kick back, squeeze your butt. Now lift the knee out to the side. Now keep your knee as high as you can, reach it towards your armpit. Get your knee as high as possible, then bring your leg back across, and then sweep the foot across and back down. Nice work, guys. So a couple things to look out for on this one. That bottom leg, keep that leg straight. Try not to bend the knee. Then try to only use the hip of the leg that you're working. So we don't want to tilt our pelvis a lot to make that circle. So we're keeping as much of our body still as we can except for the hip. Okay guys, we'll do one more rep on this side. Sweep across and lift as high as possible. Then keep the knee high, out to the side. And now internally rotate, try not to use that pelvis. Kick back, and then knees together. Now kick back, lift out to the side. Reach that knee up towards the armpit. Keep it as high as you can, back across. Externally rotate, and back down. Good job, guys. Those are really tough. Often when I'm doing the daily routine, I'll sometimes only even just do one hip car each side because they take a lot longer than the other joints and they're really tough. All right, guys, let's go to our other side. Another thing actually I forgot to mention is try to keep your knee at the same angle, so like about a 90-degree angle throughout the rep. All right, so let's sweep the foot across. Reach the ankle up as high as possible. Now keep your knee high, come out to the side. Now internally rotate, extend, and knees together. Then kick back, lift out to the side. Reach your knee up towards the armpit. Keep it high, come back across, externally rotate, and back down. And one more rep on these cars, guys. Reach up, keep the knee up as high as possible. Go into abduction. Now internally rotate, extend, knees together. Keep that knee at 90 degrees, kick back, lift out to the side. Reach that knee up towards the armpit, back across, and down. So with a lot of you guys, if I assessed your hip, then we would have done a hip cars first. And from that, I can see different parts of the rotation that you struggle with, and then I can see where you might need to work on with your hip mobility. So if we're struggling at this part of the car, then it's likely that your internal rotation might be limited. If we're doing this part and you're not able to lift that foot very high, then that might be your external rotation. So cars are great for maintaining our mobility, but also assessing it. All right, guys. Now we're going to move into a position called 90-90. It's called that because we create 90-degree angles with both of our legs. So let's set up with our left leg in front and our right leg behind. So if you have a mat, you can set up your left thigh with the long edge of the mat and then your shin with the short edge of the mat. Then with your back leg, you can set up your thigh with the short edge and your shin with the long edge. Now for some people, this position just on its own is really difficult to get into. So if that's the case, you can take your yoga blocks or your cushions. So for example, you can sit your hip up on a block, and that might be more comfortable. Or same thing, you could set your hip up on a cushion. You could also potentially put a block or even a pillow underneath that front knee, or even underneath the back knee, so that we're not in quite a deep a position. So for some of you guys that are tighter, this might be a good option for you. Okay. So setting up in that 90-90, whatever feels good for you, we're first going to focus on the back leg and we're going to work on our internal rotation. So I want you to take the glute on your back leg and try to sit that down towards the ground. At the same time, turn your upper body to face that back leg. And I want you to feel a good stretch up in the hip capsule up here. So what I don't want you to feel is any pinching on the inside, on the closing side. If you feel any pinching, maybe try some props, so our yoga blocks or our cushions, or just kind of lean over to the side a little bit more, and that might take some of that away. All right, guys, so from here, we've been in this stretch maybe 30 seconds. We're just going to hold it another 90 seconds. Then we're going to do our pails and rails. So continue, deep breaths, try to relax as much as possible, and then I'll walk you through the pails and rails in another minute or so. What also might be helpful is take your hand and just press your knee down if it feels like that knee wants to lift. All right, guys, so for our pails contraction, we are going to be driving the ankle down into the floor or into the mat. We're going to start about 20% and then gradually increase that intensity. For our rails, we're trying to lift the ankle. Because we're right in our end range, it's probably not going to be able to lift because we don't have strength or control here, but just try to engage the muscles as if you could lift. And then after that, pails and rails, we're just going to do another 30 seconds passive. Okay, guys, 20% effort. Just start to drive that foot and ankle into the floor. Gradually increase your effort up to 40% and up to 60%. And as long as there's no pain, push 80% effort. And as long as there's no pain, maximum effort now. 3, 2, 1, and now try to lift that ankle. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, relax everything. And now try to go a little bit deeper into that stretch. Sit that butt down towards the ground. So guys, when we're doing our pails and rails, we want to create tension in the rest of our body. So if we squeeze our abs, squeeze our upper body muscles, then we're actually going to create more force in the lower body as well. But when we're trying to stretch passively, we want to try to relax everything as much as we can and almost think of falling asleep in the position. All right, guys, so now we're going to stay in this position, but we're just going to focus on the front leg now. So I want you to sit up nice and tall, face your front leg. Now I want you to try and fold forward from the pelvis over that front leg. So for this one, I want you to feel it in the glute of your front leg. So I don't want you to feel any pinching on the inside here. So if you do feel that pinching, again, you might want to sit up on a block or a cushion, or maybe put something underneath your knee. And guys, the reason I want you to keep your spine long is because if we're just rounding our back like this, that's having no effect actually on the hip. So we have to actually tilt the pelvis in order to target the hip. All right, guys, so we're going to hold this another minute. Then our pails, we're going to be driving that ankle into the ground. And then the rails, trying to lift it up. But for now, we're just relaxing. You can try different angles with your body. So I feel more of a stretch if I turn a little bit more, but you might feel it more towards your foot. So just play around with it and find whatever feels the most tight for you. All right, guys, let's go for our pails and rails. So again, 20% effort, just start driving that foot and ankle into the ground. Gradually come up to 40%. Now take a deep breath, engage your core, engage your upper body, come up to 60% effort, 80%, and as long as there's no pain, max effort. 3, 2, 1, and now try to lift. Again, probably not going to lift. Just engage. 3, 2, 1, and relax everything. And try to go a little further forward now. So yeah, guys, stretching is all about finding what works for you and your body. But it's also important that we vary our stretches. If we do the same stretches the same way all the time, then we're only targeting certain lines of tissues in our body. So we want to make slight adjustments. Just like when we're doing bench press, for example, we don't want to just do bench with a barbell with the same grip all the time. We want to do narrow grip, wide grip, incline, dumbbells. So we're targeting more of our body and getting stronger. All right, guys, we are now going to transition to the other side. And we're going to transition in a specific way. So what I want you first of all to do is lift your back knee off the ground while keeping your front knee on the ground. So get your knees as far apart as you can from each other. Once you feel you can't get that knee any higher, then let that other knee lift. Now, so we're in a position called bear sit. Now from here, take this knee and internally rotate as much as possible. Once you feel you can't get any more internal rotation, then let that other hip lift, and now we're in 90-90 on this other side. So now we're going to focus on this back leg once again. So try to sit that glute down to the mat and turn to face that back leg. And remember guys, feel free to use any props that you need. We never want to feel any sort of pinching sensations. We always want to feel a stretch. So if you feel that pinch, you might want to, like I said, lean over to the side a little bit more, or try elevating the hips or elevating the knee. All right guys, let's go for another minute. Passive stretch. Again, try to relax everything. Deep breaths. Also guys, I know this session is going to be a little bit longer, so just so you know, it's 8 o'clock now. If anybody needs to leave at 8, no problem. See you later, Robbie. All right guys, let's do our pails and rails. So 20% effort, drive that ankle into the ground. Gradually increase, like someone's turning up the volume from 0 to 100. Take a deep breath, squeeze the core. Come up to 60, 80% max effort. 3, 2, 1, switch to the rails. Try to lift that foot. Just get any sort of engagement that you can. 3, 2, 1, and relax back to passive. All right guys, still in this 90-90. Just rotate to face your front leg. Keep that spine long and just fold forward. So now that we're focusing on this front leg, if it feels more comfortable and you want to adjust your back leg, that's completely fine, because we're focusing on the front leg for now. So guys, rotation is the most important movement for all of our joints except for the spine. And the reason for that is to do with our joint capsule. So our joint capsule is made up of ligaments that surround the joint. And the only way to stretch those and to create more space in that capsule is by increasing our rotation. So what happens if our capsule is tight is there's not enough space for the two bones to move relative to each other. And then we can end up with a pinching sensation or an impingement. And also it's just going to limit our range of motion. So if we can improve our rotation, then we get more space in our joint capsule, and then we get more range of motion in all directions. So that's why we're working on this internal and external rotation in our hips. You need to work on that and make sure you have adequate rotation before you work on things like flexion and extension and abduction. All right guys, let's do our pails and rails on this side. So start driving that ankle into the floor. Gradually increase. 60%, create that tension in the rest of your body. 80%, max effort. 3, 2, 1, and try to lift. 3, 2, 1, and back to passive. Try to relax everything.
Thanks, David. I gotta run.
No problem, Melvin. Thanks. This will be uploaded, so yeah, you can finish it off when you want. All right, guys, we are going to do that same transition back to the other side. So lift this knee up as high as you can while keeping the other knee down. Once you can't lift it any higher, then you let that other knee lift. Then from here, internally rotate as far as possible. And then turn to your 90-90 on the other side. All right, guys. Next up, we're going to move into a stretch called frog stretch. So, I want you to get your knees as wide as you can, and then get your feet in line with your knees. If you can see my feet here, yeah. Now what you can do is you can stay up on your hands, or if it feels comfortable, you can go down onto the forearms. And from here, we're just going to gently try to sit our hips back to our ankles. So we're going to sit in this for 2 minutes. And like we were before, do our pails and rails. And the reason we do pails and rails is because our flexibility is actually determined by our nervous system. So when you feel a stretch, it's not because the muscle is short, it's actually because your nervous system is telling that muscle to contract and stop you from going further because it doesn't have strength or control in that position. So if you're completely unconscious, your joints would be able to move freely through a full range of motion. Same thing with like dead bodies. You would have, like if you were in this position, your hips would be on the ground. It's because the nervous system is what actually determines our flexibility. So when we do our pails and rails, we're sending a message to our nervous system that we can create force in these end ranges, and therefore it realizes it's safe and it's going to give us a little bit more range of motion. But if we only do it once, then it's only going to be a temporary increase. We have to do it regularly for us to permanently get that range of motion. And then, once we have more flexibility, we want to create that strength and control, turn it into mobility, so that way we can access it with strength and control, we can access it more regularly, and we're going to keep that range of motion for longer. And it also lowers our risk of injury because we have that strength and control. All right, guys, so for this pails, I want you to drive your knees into the ground. Then for the rails, I want you to try to squeeze your outer hip muscles and pull your knees wider. So if you can even slide your knees wider, that's great. Okay, so 20% effort. Engage your groin muscles, drive the knees down. Now be careful, make sure we're not pushing through pain, but if it feels okay, increase to 40% and 60% and 80% and max effort if there's no pain. 3, 2, 1. Now squeeze the outer hip muscles. Try to drag your knees wider. 3, 2, 1, and back to passive. And relax. All right, guys, just lean forwards to come out of that position. And next up, we're going to move into a butterfly position. So feet together, and just let your knees fall out to the side. Yeah, it's very normal if you have one hip that's tighter than the other, but we definitely want to recognize that and try to even ourselves out if we can. So from here, guys, I just want you to extend your right leg out in front of you. So in future weeks, we're going to talk more about adding that strength and control. During this week, we're more focused just on that flexibility aspect, because you need flexibility before you can have mobility. But for this stretch here, I'm going to just demonstrate the difference between your flexibility and your mobility. All right, so right from your end range, so where you are right now, I want you to try to engage your quad and your hip flexor and try to lift your leg off the floor without leaning back at all. So, I'm assuming for all of us, but maybe you were able to lift, in which case you're very mobile, but you probably weren't able to lift that leg. That's because we have this passive range of motion, but we don't have this active range of motion. Now I want you to engage that hip flexor and quad, and then slowly come up until the leg lifts. And place it back down. So that was our mobility. That's that range that we actually have strength and control. Just to illustrate that difference. And in order to close the gap between passive and active, we need to strength train near our end ranges. So you would come a little bit out of the stretch and do some leg lifts in this position. And over time, as you get stronger, you'll be able to do that in a deeper and deeper position. So that's just a little preview for future weeks. All right, guys, bring that foot back in and we'll switch to the left leg. So guys, pails and rails make our stretches more effective, but you don't always have to do them because they're hard, right? It's a lot of effort. So don't always feel like you have to do the pails and rails. But I'd rather you do at least just passive stretching without pails and rails than do nothing at all. All right, guys, last two stretches for tonight. I just want you to cross your legs and just fold forward as far as you can. Again, if you get any pain, just don't go quite as deep into it. So with our mobility and flexibility, it's also important to know what we want to do with our bodies. So if someone enjoys weightlifting and wants to do overhead squats in the gym, they're going to need more mobility than someone who doesn't want to do that. So yeah, our mobility practice should be tailored towards what activities we want to do. So let's switch sides. So yeah, cross your other shin in front. If you're a power lifter and you're doing back squats and you only need to just get barely below parallel for your sport, then you don't need to work as long on your mobility to get that super deep squat necessarily. Same thing if you're a swimmer, you might need a lot of shoulder mobility, more than the average person. So yeah, it's all about finding what you need to do the activities you want to do, and then finding out how to get there. All right, guys, just sit up tall and close your eyes and just thank yourself for taking this time to look after your joints and look after your body. And be grateful for what your body's capable of. Some of us may feel tight, some of us may have injuries, but our bodies are still capable of so much, and we're now taking this time to improve our mobility so that we can keep doing the things we love. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining tonight.